It was an invasion of a town. It's Rob and Liz, his morning crew on his radio. Harlan from the afternoons filling in for Liz this week as she's on vacation. Literally, tumbleweeds invaded a town in Utah. Invaded Utah, a whole city. These tumbleweeds just came out of nowhere because of this windstorm that came through.
Have you ever actually seen a tumbleweed?
Only in movies. I've never seen one up close in person.
I didn't know they were real things. So when we moved to Texas, we were positive that we were going to see one because, in Texas, they're everywhere. No, not
They are
one.
Really everywhere in Texas?
No, I've never seen one. We lived there 4.5 years in Houston. I never saw a tumbleweed.
Not one tumbleweed.
Until I'm seeing this story on the news, I honestly didn't know they honestly existed.
Well, there's so many that this windstorm have blown into this one city. I mean, thousands of tumbleweeds in this one city in Utah. There's some people are selling them on Etsy because of people like Harlan who has never seen a tumbleweed.
I'd probably buy one.
For real?
Yeah, and just put it in my backyard. Like, look at my tumbleweed. I'm so country now.
You'd really do that?
Yes.
Rob and Liz, his morning crew.
Christy is here at 800-447-7234. Christy, what's going on?
So I grew up in Nebraska. You guys are talking about tumbleweeds. And I grew up in Nebraska, and some friends of ours at the church my dad pastored would use a tumbleweed as their Christmas tree every year. And we had them everywhere in Nebraska, it seemed like. So they would just put their lights and their bulbs on it, and that was their Christmas tree every year was their tumbleweed. I thought it was cool. It was a very original idea.
Did they put it in their house with a Christmas skirt around it?
Yeah, it was in their house. Their gifts would be around the front of it, and it was nice and decorated. It had lights all over it, Christmas bulbs, garland, the whole 9 yards. It was no longer a tumbleweed. It was a decorated something.
Rob and Liz, his morning crew.
Grayson is one of those people that is changing the world. He has persevered through incredible obstacles and house to house, foster care, just not in good situations. He was adopted finally when he was 7. And on his birthday, let me tell you, NASA's Perseverance, the rover on Mars, gave him a special award. It was a message from the Mars rover. Isn't that crazy? Awesome.
Do you know what it said?
I do.
What did it say?
It said, carve your own path and push onward. Keep striving for excellence.
I love that. Oh, how cool. And I love that it's the Perseverance rover that helped this little guy because he's persevered through so much.
Yes. Maybe you're going through a lot right now, and the Mars rover isn't sending you a message, but we are this morning. That you're enough and you're awesome.
Yeah, you matter. You certainly do matter to God. And what a great story from this little guy who's gone through so much from house to house. And I'm sure that foster care parents, let me tell you, they're amazing because I've had to experience that. We were foster care parents in our life for quite a number of years. But it's really tough on kids that go from one house to another house and try to get back with parents, and then it doesn't work out, but now he's in a forever home. And he's persevered through so much in his 7 years of life that now here's this little guy who gets an honor from NASA in honor of the Perseverance Mars rover because he's a persevering kind of guy.
Rob and Liz, his morning crew.
This lady's like, I hear snoring under my house. There's snoring. This is winter. There's snoring. And she tells her neighbors, and her neighbors are like, listen, that's just in your head. You're hearing things. Spring happens. The snoring was real. It was bears hibernating under her house, like in the crawl space, literally under the house. It's a mama bear and 3 cubs and an adopted bear. How nice she adopted another youngling.
To go under this lady's house.
That's where they were.
They were sleeping there.
Literally hibernating under her house. And the neighbors are like, oh, we should have believed you when you said you heard snoring under the house.
I feel like this whole thing has Goldilocks vibes.
Doesn't
they woke up
though?
and ate the porridge and it was just right.
Yeah.
It was the right place for them to sleep.
They got the right animal type people out. So the bears are now living out where the bears should live.
Okay, but nobody believed her. Like, nobody thought to
Nobody.
look under.
The neighbors are like, cuckoo. You know? It's like, lady, you're not hearing this.
Has anything been under your house that... I mean, like, we had friends that had a skunk living under their house, but you knew.
Had a squirrel in the attic. Yeah, and it was horrific.
Yeah.
And this squirrel was mean, and it was the hardest thing to catch. Yeah. Finally, my friend Mark said, okay, listen, I'm sending somebody over. They're going to professionally trap this thing. And they did. They were able to get the squirrel out.
And the squirrel was safe.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to end this positively.
Well, it did.
Rob and Liz.
His morning crew.
So Luke and Andy are cousins, and they're pilots, and they thought, you know what we should do live on Hulu? This was Sunday. Let's fly planes and then jump into each other's plane. You jump into my plane, I jump into your plane, and I'll fly your plane, and you fly my plane.
Who thought that was a good idea?
Oh, Luke and Andy.
Luke and Andy's mama did not think that was a good idea.
Right? They actually, this was a live thing. They called it a plane swap. It was on Hulu, and they're both okay, but one plane and one brother did not accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. They only got it halfway done.
Was he okay?
Oh, they're both okay. The plane is like a wreck. But it was neat how they did it, because what they did was do a nosedive with their planes way up high. Okay. So, and they both had parachutes, and they had this contraption as the plane was going down, a flap came up to slow the plane up a little bit so that they could jump out of their planes and get into the other plane and fly it. That was their goal in midair. It didn't work. One brother got into one cousin got into one plane. The other cousin couldn't because the other plane started to tailspin as it was going down. And so he had to open up his parachute.
What did that plane land on?
The ground?
Not like a house or anything.
No. It was like over a desert. So there's nothing around it. They were smart about that part. They weren't doing it like over LA or anything like that.
They were smart about that part, he says. No mama is thinking, oh, that was a good idea.
Right?
They're cousins. That's two people in the same family. What? There is no way. There is no way if they were in my family, I would allow that.
Could you imagine them growing up together?
No.
All the adrenaline, stuff that they did all the time, the daring stuff, the climbing trees, jumping off buildings. I could see it now.
I honestly didn't think that far, and now my mind is blowing up with all the things that my boys could do to get in trouble.
Getting their bicycles and jumping off of ramps and stuff like that. That's what these kids must have been like.
And switching seats on those bicycles midair.
Hey,
No.
remember when we did that with our bikes? How about planes?
Rob and Liz.
His morning crew. Let me tell you. First of all, I'm absolutely in love with his name.
Can you
ready
find
for
his
this?
name?
Yes.
She's like, where are my notes?
Where are they? Toby Keith.
Oh, yeah.
Toby Keith. The Chihuahua that is outliving every other dog in the world. The
How old?
Chihuahua. He's like 21 years old. The dog's going to live forever.
Average age of a dog is like what, 12? I mean, that's old for a dog, is 12, right?
Yes. And Toby Keith is a Chihuahua. And so most Chihuahuas by like
Chihuahua.
Chihuahuas, they don't have teeth after like 6 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this is like the healthiest of all the Chihuahuas ever.
Chihuahua. So this Chihuahua has teeth?
Yes.
At 22, 21?
Yeah. This is insane. I have a Chihuahua named Zoe.
Chihuahua.
And she doesn't have like her mind with her anymore. And she's like 4.
And she's all gums?
No, I mean, she has teeth. She just doesn't have her mind.
Dentures?
Like, she's crazy.
She have dentures?
Yes.
You say their teeth fall out.
Well, not at 4, but by 5 or 6, yeah.
So she's got another year left of teeth.
Pretty much, yeah.
And she's out of her mind. Mm-hmm. What does she do?
She's just psycho. Like, she just barks at everything and growls at everyone and hates the world except for Paul.
Your husband.
Yeah.
So she likes your husband.
That's it.
But nobody else.
Nobody else. And this dog is just so friendly and old. And, like, you could tell it's just a calmer dog.
Toby Keith you're talking about.
Yes.
Not your Chihuahua.
No, my Chihuahua is
Chihuahua.
crazy. It's Chihuahua.
Chihuahua. Where'd you get the wow wow?
I don't know. ever since I got a Zoe, and that was my Chihuahua.
Okay. Now, what are other dogs with that name? The breed.
They're Chihuahuas.
All of them are Chihuahuas.
All of them are Chihuahuas.
Rob and Liz,
His morning crew.
I wonder if this is something you'd get into. I don't know. But it's a desert island. It has a cottage on it. And it's the loneliest place on the planet, they say. And it's for sale. A whole island is for sale. It's like off of Maine. So I think you could probably only really use it during the summer months. Because it's like really cold weather, you know? Snow and stuff.
Why is it so lonely?
Because it's just a cottage in the middle of a small deserted island.
That
I should
sounds
say.
lovely.
Really?
That does not sound lonely. It sounds lovely.
I will say the cottage looks amazing. First, it's for sale like for $339,000. So for me, I don't have that kind of cash, but I thought it would be a whole lot more. I thought it'll be $1 million for an island, right? So it's not. It's not even a quarter, or it's just a little over $250,000, which is crazy. And then it's really nice inside. It's like 1.5 acres that it sits on in the middle of the ocean, which right off of Maine, which is really nice. It's got all these great views. It's 540 square feet. There's no running water. Inside's really cute. It's just one big room, basically. And I think at the top, in the gable, is a couple of beds. So you've got to get up a ladder to go to sleep.
That sounds fantastic. Like the nicest break ever. You get a little boat, you put some water on it, you head on to your island, you rest for a few days, and then you go back home.
This is like a mom escape, it sounds like to me.
I think this is the best investment one could do because Airbnbs are everywhere and, people still kind of afraid to travel. I think you can't get anything on this island.
Yeah?
You're all by yourself. Just give me.
What about the outhouse? There's an outhouse. Could that be a deal breaker?
I think for 2 to 3 days of peace and quiet, I don't think it's a deal breaker. I'm not a fan of that idea.
Yeah, because there's no running water. There's no potty inside the cottage. It's the outhouse.
I'm not a fan of that idea, but I think it would make enough profit to make it worth it. And then you get the 2 to 3 days a year.
Would you stay there? Would Harlan stay
Yes.
there? Would you even stay there?
Yes, I'd stay there. It's adorable.
But they're at the outhouse.
I'm telling you.
Listen, you should have seen her face
2 to 3
when I said
days.
outhouse.
2 to 3 days max is what I could do. But I can also only talk to myself for 2 to 3 days at a time. But I need that time.
Rob and Liz,
His morning crew.
I love this relationship between this dad and his son. Here's how they connect. They get on a boat. They go through rivers with this big, gigantic magnet and comb the river bottom. And then they find things that this magnet will pick up. Several different types of things. And here's one thing they found the other day. A safe. They pulled the safe out and they were able to crack the safe and get into the safe. And inside the safe was like $1,800.
What?
And bank cards. And of course, they were able to find out who this was because on the bank card, it belonged to a Rob Everett. They tracked the guy down and say, hey, listen, we were going through the river one day and found your safe and it has all this money and all your bank cards in it. And he said, dude, that was stolen from me 22 years ago.
They found it.
They found it.
Like a treasure chest. And then they gave it back.
Yeah, they gave it right back to the guy. They didn't keep the cash.
So
they
it's-
tracked down the dude who owned it.
So it's really not about what they find at all. It's about spending time, father-son
That's
bonding
what I love
situation.
about this. They're doing this thing together, so evidently they both like doing this, but they're together constantly doing this.
And they get to have all those sweet conversations while they're doing it because it sounds like a pretty boring situation.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know. But, you've got a big magnet and you're just going back and forth with everything and not getting things all the time, I'm sure. I'm sure a lot of times
now,
it's...
They don't do like you see people out at the beach. You know how you see some guys at the beach and they have this magnet thing and they're going...
Yeah.
And find like, a quarter. So they don't do that. They have this magnet that hangs at the bottom of their boat, and then they comb the river with it. So they're on a boat going through, spending time together, and then finding things.
Just having those conversations.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
Yeah, my son likes music. I have 3 sons. My middle son likes music. We connect with music. And then my 2 bookend sons, they like to fish. I don't like to fish. So I have to find things that they like to do to connect with them on.
Fishing's not it, though?
Not for me.
But you can sit in a boat.
I am so impatient when it comes to fishing. Forget it.
But I think the thing is that it's not about fishing at all. It's about sitting in a boat with nowhere to go
I have no boat.
to have those conversations.
This dad ain't got no boat.
We'll get a
I like
piece
the
of plywood and
I like
just-
the conversation thing, but then I get too competitive, and then I can't connect that way.
Okay.
That's just me. I can't connect that way, so I have to find other things to connect with.
Well, whatever you're doing, make sure you get that time, that father-son bonding time. It's so important. And this guy did it and then gave back the treasure.
Rob and Liz.
His morning crew.
It is the last thing I ever wanted to see at a grocery store. You're walking through the aisle, you're picking out your bag of chips, and all of a sudden there is a snake in the shelf. So you pull out that bag of chips and there it is.
A snake.
Asking
Isn't that
to eat your
crazy?
chips.
I
No.
love this.
That's not, there's nothing to love in that story.
So you would react to this.
Rob.
How?
I would have
wanna
been
know.
screaming at the top of my lungs. You would have thought someone died in this store if I walked in and there was a snake if I pulled something
That
off the
sounds
shelf.
pretty amazing. I
would have
would have
had-
been mesmerized. It's like, look at this. A snake's on the shelf.
No, sir. 911 would have been called. There would have been paramedics. I would have been lying on the ground. It would have been a whole scene. A whole thing.
Is this like this for bugs for you?
This is like this for everyday life. So
Everyday life.
Yes. I mean, we saw a snake this past weekend in the forest when we were walking.
Oh, you were hiking this weekend. That's
Yeah.
right. Oh, you left that detail out. I didn't know you guys ran into a snake on the trail.
We did. And
What was it? What kind? What kind?
I don't know. It
Oh,
was
what kind?
black. It was scary looking.
Oh, those are fine. They're tame. They're
my
tame.
son,
You're good. Mm-hmm.
my fifth grader, tells me every one of them is vicious. Like they're gonna. What are they called when they get you? They're poisonous.
Okay.
What is that called?
They're poisonous.
Oh, they're venomous. Venomous. That's the word I was going for. So in my mind, every snake is venomous. And if I was in this particular Walmart that day, it would have been the most venomous snake in the world.
And you don't know what kind of snake it was in Walmart?
No, they nicknamed it Wolverine.
No way.
So that tells me
it has a name.
That tells me it's the scariest thing ever.
Rob and Liz.
His morning crew.
Couple of countdowns happening. Harlan is moving in to her house finally after moving here from Houston and being in an apartment in 51 days.
Yay!
Ninja's closing on her and her new hubby, which she just got married. We did the whole countdown for her marriage. Is 7 days away? Are you a week away from that now?
7 days.
Oh, man.
This time next week.
Yeah, whole new neighborhood for both. So I'm thinking if they could, and they can't, but if they could, they can't. But if they could, but they can't. Just remember, they could, but can't. But if they could win the block party, but they can't win the block party, but they could, the block party for them would be to get to know their neighbors.
Yeah, just, set up all of the things in the cul-de-sac down the road and just be like, hey, neighbors, here I am. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome me.
Welcome me.
Welcome me.
Also, I'm bringing the party and the food. But we
And
could
the bounce
do that
houses
in your
and stuff.
neighborhood.
Well, that's the thing, too. I mean, I don't know about your neighborhood, but there was a neighborhood that I lived in. And the only time there was any interaction with anybody was when their car was driving up the road, the garage door opens, they wave to you as they're going into the garage, and it closes. You're like, well, who are these people? They have to be, outdwellers at some point and come outside. They only, went to their backyard. So we don't really know our neighbors in that one neighborhood really well. The one I'm in now is it's just like block party all the time. It's just really neat. Everybody loves everybody and helps everybody, which I love the neighborhood that I'm in right now. So Harlan and Ninja are going to be both moving to different places. So if they could have the block party, they can't win the block party. But if they could, but they can't. But if they could, they would get to know their neighbors.
It is so important, I think, to know your neighbors, and I think this is a great way to do it. Just, throw up
But
a
you
bounce
can't.
house and have some fun.
You
I
can't.
but you can.
Yeah.
You can go right now, hisradio.com, sign up, or you can text.
Party. The word's party to 800-447-7234. If she could, she can't. Ninja can't, but if she could. But they both could, but they can't. Because you could and can win the block party. Throw it to get to know the neighbors.
Hisradio.com.